We have to come up with our own counter.
We need a better countdown. I'm falling asleep.
That was going in reverse seconds.
It was very relaxing.
This is the woosah moment of the day, everybody.
Out your mattresses.
So one of the reasons that you do have a countdown on Twitch is because it sends out notifications to all your followers and it gives them a chance to be here. So thanks so much for being here. I wanted to kick this off by drinking this intense defense energy shot. And the reason I'm doing it is because I'm trying to wake up. This thing sometimes makes me want to vomit. So I thought it would be a great way to get started on the live stream. And then we can turn over to Bill and then he can teach us stuff. So here we go. All right, Bill. Oh. All right, Bill. What are we going to talk about today?
Jason, I just don't have the heart to tell you that was tequila. Oh well, everybody. I'm Bill Stearns. I'm active countermeasures, and we do a lot of tech support for AC Hunter and read software at that. I wanted to kind of really quick jump in to what you do when you land on a Linux system that you've never worked with before. I do this all the time. I'm working with a customer system. I'm working with one of my own. We have a gateway that we have to work with. And the question is, what's there? Am I working a capable box? Is this something that's very underpowered? Who knows? So what I want to do is switch over to a command line prompt of a random computer that I've just happened to land on, and we're going to take a look at how you figure out what you're working with. Who's there? What's running? So first thing is, what hardware do we have? And this is where a couple of people have really done a lot of the background work to show you what's on the computer. lshw shows you what hardware is on the system. So let's take a look at what's on this little Raspberry Pi. I am running this as root because the ability, I'm trying to run this as root. The ability to identify hardware is much easier when you're running as a root user. This very quickly goes out and grabs what do you have for processors, how much memory is on the system.
Is this the computer that you're using right now, Bill?
No, actually, I'm connected up to a little Raspberry Pi that's over on the other end of the desk.
Okay.
The system I happen to be working on at the moment is a MacBook Air, and so we're just doing a little Raspberry Pi so I go on a Linux system. What happens? A lot of these tools will work across.
Bill, since that MacBook Air is doing everything it can to run this, can you go ahead and disable your camera?
Shall do. Camera coming right off.
And just an update, I have not vomited.
That's going to make it much easier.
Okay, so there's no vomiting at this time.
Not yet.
Hold on a sec.
We have.
We're going to get real-time vomiting.
Hey, chat, should Jason have to do 10 jumping jacks right now? Write in the chat if Jason should do 10 jumping jacks.
Oh my goodness, it is getting hot. It is getting hot. All right, Bill, back to you.
Oh no.
Burpees, wait.
Oh no.
I tried.
So
I tried.
Really the advantage here is that I've got one tool to very quickly fill me in on what the hardware is and what I have for storage. So you can very quickly see I've only got 8 gigabytes of storage on this box. There's not a whole lot that we're going to be able to do. I also have apparently an external drive that's plugged in. What do I have for Ethernet ports and so on? This is just a really quick way. The LS series, there are a bunch of them, and I'm just going to really quick bring them up. To see what PCI devices are connected, you can use lspci. lsusb shows me what's connected to the USB ports. lsblk shows me the block devices or hard drives on this system. And here we can see the micro SD card that runs the Raspberry Pi, and then an 8 gig USB drive that's plugged in. And finally, lscpu shows me what I have for processors on the system. So these are just the kind of quick and easy ways to identify the hardware. You can script some of these, but they're really designed for someone to just figure out what's on there. All right. I want to show a couple more quick ones before we move on to before we find out what's running on the system. uname-a shows you what processor this is on. Sorry, what kernel is running, and in this case, it also mentions what Linux distribution we're on. That's Ubuntu in this case. If you're ever on a Linux system and you can't tell what operating system is there, this is a generic command that works across basically all Linux systems. cat space / /etc/ / release *. And it's not formatted very cleanly, but here I can tell that this is Ubuntu 20.04 long-term support. All right? Okay. So the next step, and I'm going to clear the screen here, is to figure out what's... Oh, go ahead, Jason, please.
So I'm just thinking about how, like, you said that LTS stands for long-term support. There's probably someone that's watching this right now is like, oh, that's what that means.
Absolutely.
Like, there's like things that it's a given. You've seen it for years. You never asked the question. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, that's what, okay.
I wish I'd known. Exactly right.
Or everyone's like, Jason, everyone knows what LTS means. You're just nitty. And that's fine. And I haven't thrown it up yet.
Not a single person is thinking. Yeah, exactly. We're all on our vomit watch. We'll wait. We'll come back to you when you feel we need to. All right. Hey, I want to show a slightly different command for figuring out what's running on the system. Usually you'd use top, but I want to encourage everybody to try out atop. If you don't have this on your system, I'll show you how to install it in just a second. But atop goes way beyond what you can learn from top. For the first 10 seconds after you boot, it shows you statistics since the system was first booted. But after that, it shows you individual processors, individual disks, individual network interfaces, how much traffic is happening over each one. So I can see how many packets are coming in off of ETH0 versus WLAN 0, which is the wireless interface on the system. And this is really helpful when you've got a lot of network interfaces and you're trying to figure out which one's which. Plug a cable into one, run atop for a little while, and see which interface shows up with some actual traffic connected. Down below, it has a similar display to what you'd expect for top, where it shows processes, how much memory they take. I don't know what CID is. I don't particularly. Process ID, though, is really helpful if I'm trying to kill a running process. And here we can see I've got some Python scripts of some kind running. We have atop itself. We have the Zeek packet capture and so on.
I love how it's like, I'm running too, by the way. You asked me to, and I'm doing it. I'm right here. See? I'm right here.
And it's at the top.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, that's just terrible.
It's at op. At
op.
At op.
Fantastic. If you come across any of these tools where you simply don't have them, atop is not installed by default. So one of the things you can do is run sudo apt space install atop. And if you're not sure if you're even on an RPM or Debian-based distribution, you can run this sudo yum install atop. And by putting the two vertical pipes in between them, it says try to run apt first. If that fails, try to run yum. So basically, this one command will work whether you're on a Debian or an RPM-based system.
I didn't know this stuff was Mad Libs.
Mad Libs?
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I played Mad Libs. I remember sitting and playing those. With family growing up, absolutely. So this one happens to be already installed, but that trick is very helpful if you're just trying to put a package on and you don't know even what package manager you're using. If you're looking for just a command line way to see what's running on the system, PS is the process stats command. I think most of us are familiar with that. That works on Mac OS and Linuxes. If you have Windows Subsystem for Linux, it runs on there too. The F flag I find valuable because it's called the forest view. And this pulls together all of the processes that got started from a single parent. Let's show you how this works. I'm going to scroll down. All the stuff up at the top are kernel threads, and it's kind of arcane. But you see down here, I've got the Docker the Docker shim that runs another child process that starts up all the Docker entries, and then you've got these multiple tasks running Zeek, and the \_ says this process has this as a parent. So they get all grouped together so you can see them all at the same time. I'm also running TCP dump underneath a screen session so I can reconnect to it and disconnect to it later. And that's how PSAXF works.
I was telling Chris Brenton this last week as he was explaining, he was going through, and then same thing with Joff, he was explaining regex, and all, like, Chris explained T-Shark, Joff explained regex, and all of a sudden I was like, I think I get it. I think I'm starting to get this. And so same thing with you today, going through and showing me these commands. I'm like, I think I'm starting to get it.
Exactly. It's that light bulb moment that we all have. It really is. Everything I'm showing you today, I had to learn somewhere too. The goal for these series is to pass along the stuff that's kind of really valuable. 3 things that are really going to make your job easier. And we are very keen to see this series succeed. If you've got ideas of things you'd like to see that we haven't scheduled, please send them in. And I'm sure Jason's got an email address to which to send those, or put them in chat.
I'm going to email Jason.
Oh, good. Excellent.
But I also wanted to say, though, it's funny because Jason's having like a bit of an aha moment, but it's like the second you need this stuff, it's gone. It's not in your head anymore. That's how it is when I'm learning something new. Until I do it a bunch of times, I'm like, all right, like I know it, let's go. And then I get to the keyboard and empty, nothing inside.
Totally
crickets.
Gone. I do understand.
Yeah,
I want to do one. Go ahead, Jason.
Do you keep cheat sheets or something like in front of you and post-it notes all around your monitor?
I used to. In fact, I had a Microsoft Word doc that I kept in my early career where I kept tons of notes like this and tried to organize them into categories and all these commands that I saw just once, and there's no possible way I'm going to remember them. It got all my coworkers like, hey, can I have a copy of that? So there's Bill Stearns' Blue Book we handed out for a long time, at a blue cover on top.
Really?
I really would suggest. Oh gosh, I'd have to dig back onto systems that I'm not sure their hard drives even spin anymore to find that thing.
Even if you have a physical copy, I'd love to see it.
Exactly. Best suggestion: pick whatever document editor you really like, whether that's something online or something on your system, or even Notepad. Something where you can organize things into sections. And just, if you see a command that looks useful, but you don't really have time to go and play with it now, jot it down. Put in a note of what it does, maybe if you've got a moment. And that way you've got your own book. I think all of us on this call could agree that we probably don't need to put down ls for listing the files in a directory. But I'm not saying everybody. I'm not looking at you, Jason. I'm really not. Right. It's basically dir for Linux. But everybody has tools that they know, and everybody has tools that they're not familiar with. So take the ones you're not familiar with and just jot them down.
All right, Bill, what else do you want to show us?
Hey, the last one is, what network am I on? And so I'm going to just put up a couple of commands that are going to help you find out that information. The first one is ifconfig, and I'm going to put this into less. This one shows you the different interfaces on your system, the names you may need occasionally, but really what you care about is what's the IP address that's being used by this system. And in this case, 10.0.0.38 is the IP address that connects out with the real world. Anything with LO or LO0 is the loopback interface, and that's just where you can talk, the system can talk to itself. It's rarely usable. This happens to be wireless LAN enabled Raspberry Pi as well, and so I've got a separate IP address down here.
Now, if anyone's watching this, Bill, could they use those IP addresses to connect to this device?
Not those. If I had, yep, you actually could try to connect to this device over some of these addresses here. It does kind of make me wish I could scratch these out. Don't worry about it. This will be, these addresses change very frequently.
Okay,
You're not going to have much luck.
Okay. There's someone right now like furiously typing and they're like,
attack. No, it doesn't matter. The system's reasonably well locked down. Be confident of that. Now, the other thing to think about is what else is on my network. And this is where the ARP command will go out and say, show me what other systems are responding on this network. And I've got a couple more systems that reply. Here are their MAC addresses. And if I needed to, I could even look up on the internet and say, what does this 3 octet prefix mean for an Ethernet device, and find out what type of device that is. For example, I know that this happens to be Apple MacBook. The last one I want to show, because this is really showing you a little bit about what's running on your system as well, is Netstat. So if I run sudo netstat-anp, it's going to give me a lot of information. I'm only interested in what processes are listening on an active port. And so let me show you what it looks like at first, and then I'm going to come back and edit this command a little bit to make it a little bit easier to read. There's a ton of stuff down here. There's TCP and UDP and raw connections, whatever those are, and then there are Unix sockets, and it's just a whole bunch of garbage.
It's nice to know that you don't know exactly what all those are, so that way when I look at them, I'm like, yep.
I really don't. Trust me. Inside your system. So if I simply say, show me everything, which I'm going to look at the beginning of each line, and I don't care about the first 2 characters, but I want the third character to be a P, and I'll show you why. Here we go. I want to see everything that starts with TCP or TCP6 or UDP or UDP6, and these are all my TCP and UDP listening ports. You see all these lines that have listen on them. And I can also see the connections that are established between my system and some other computer on the network or on the internet. It's a really quick way to see what servers I've got running, what clients I've got running. It's a very handy way to get a sense of what's there. All right, so help me out, Jason and Ryan. What's your best sense of time? Would you like to look at one more, or are you kind of all set?
Yeah, we got one more. Plus, I got a question. It says, any advantage or disadvantage to using IP -A versus ipconfig? ifconfig. IP list. It just said IP -A. I don't know if that's.
I'm getting a
I think they're the same command. One's just like an older.
IP adder. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah. So ifconfig is the older one, and you're exactly right. These are IP adder. IP space ADDR is the newer format, and that one is installed by default on all current Linux distributions. I'm used to the older format. I find that I get all that I need out of ifconfig, but both work just fine, and you'll get the same information.
So White Cyberduck threw some violence by saying IP command is the new hotness. Ipconfig is for boomer.
Yes, and I am boomer. Absolutely.
I still use ifconfig, so.
Yeah, there you go. Let me hold on a second.
Although I was taught Linux by a boomer, so.
That might be it. There you go.
That might be it.
Yeah.
Well, it's good too that the audience here is throwing out like, here's what they would do, or here's what they would do, or here's what they would do differently. And so hopefully over the next couple of months, you would also like to come on and show
your 3 things.
Show your 3
Absolutely.
things.
Me?
Absolutely. We'd love it.
The audience.
Yeah.
Well, Serena, of course, we're going to get you at some point here showing us.
Oh, great.
Stuff,
So that's what I've got for today. I'm obviously happy to answer questions. Let me go and kill the share so that I stop showing.
Hi,
There we
Bill.
go. Is that camera usable? Hi, guys.
Yep. Hey, Bill. So, Bill, thank you so
Serena,
much.
where did you get your basic training? Where did you learn Linux?
Oh, college. I went to school.
Yep. It's kind of assumed that you're going to kind of learn it yourself, and then somebody says, "Oh, here's an account. Log into this thing," and you got to figure it all out for yourself.
Yeah, I think my first distro that I used was Fedora, and then I just had to take a class in college that was Unix and Linux, and then I had to take a follow-up which was advanced Unix and Linux, and basically it was all just labs, and I really didn't find it super helpful. It wasn't until I actually started using it then I, now I'm much more better at it, and I'm better at Linux than I am Windows, which is, I don't know if that's good or bad, but
totally good from my perspective. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I like how whenever Ryan brings this up full screen, there's a little bit of like we're full screen. All right. Thanks, Ryan.
There's my face.
Yeah, Ryan. Thanks.
Hey,
thanks,
very
Ryan.
Cool.
Right.
Any questions that came up that we should?
Yeah, if anyone has any questions for Bill, we do these Tuesdays and Wednesdays. You never know what it's going to be. It's who's ever, and I'm not going to say whoever's available. It's whoever volunteers for the slot, and then they show up and they do the things that they want to do. And then afterwards, we put a title and a description on it, so that way, if you want to find it later on to learn from it, you can. Hun189 says, I tried ifconfig once and it wasn't installed, so I started using IP and never went back. Nice.
Yep. That ifconfig is not installed by default commonly. It's part of the net-tools package. So if you need it, it's there. If not, then absolutely use IP space adder, and that will give you the information that ifconfig used to give you.
And where is this stuff being installed from? Is it like, does it come with it and it's not enabled, or is it coming from the internet somewhere that when you
do a little sudo apt get install and then whatever you need.
Why doesn't it just come with it?
Some do. Yeah. Some distributions do. Yeah. Like Kali comes with that, all those tools.
Oh, absolutely.
From the cloud.
Let's install everything. And the problem is, and that takes up a whole bunch of disk space for tools you may never use. So if I can install them later, just the thing that I need, usually what you get is a pretty good starting point, and then I always have a couple of packages I want to put on afterwards. They're pulled down from the operating system vendor's FTP or website. Installed, it's not too much effort. Yep, that apt or yum command would do that for you.
I think I get it now.
What everybody does, I'll let you in on the secret, is they just Google it. And they're like, how do I install? And then the package that they want. And then it'll come up with the command and what word you need to put in the command line. And you're like, all right, there we go.
So it's like getting a toolbox. It's like getting a toolbox for Christmas one year. And that's your distribution. And then over the years, you keep picking up the screwdriver that you need, and then sometimes you need a pair of pliers, but if you got the whole toolbox right away, you'd be like, I don't need all this stuff.
Yeah, it just fills up the drive, and then there's no place to put new tools. Now, think about it that way.
And some people have preferences. Like they'll prefer there might be a bunch of tools that do the same thing, but you might have a preference on which one you you prefer. So you don't need 4 tools that do the same thing. You just download whichever one you like to use.
Bingo.
I still remember when I was
top,
learning.
H-top. Yep. Go ahead.
When I was using DOS in the early 90s, and I was like, this win folder is taking up a lot of space. Let me just dd this win folder, and it didn't work anymore. But
Funny,
a lot of free space on the drives.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. All right, Bill, thanks for your time.
very
Serena,
nice.
thanks for being here. Ryan, thanks for making us full screen, you monster.
You're welcome.
I didn't
we're still
vomit.
waiting for that vomit now. Yeah. Just do it. Do it once for us.
Drink the whole thing. No vomit. So, all right. Yay. Thank you so much for joining us on this Antisyphon live stream. We do this every Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Thanks for following. If there was anyone who Slayer Death, thanks for following. Take a Fill, thanks for following. Razamuhan, thanks for following. And thanks so much for being here. We'll be back tomorrow and then next week. And tomorrow we got Chris Brettons joining us again, and he's going to talk about. I guess we'll have to find out tomorrow. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Brettons
Brian,
stuff.
Right. You'll have to
Brian,
join us.
kill it with fire, buddy. Kill it.
Bye.